Hi, good morning. Guys ready to quilt? I've already been practicing and planning and warming up. Let me grab this pencil. All right, so we have been working on our intersection project, and we're going to be adding the next step in that design. So let me put it up. Let me show you where we're going with that. So we've already done some of the circles, and we're going to add a next layer of design. So let me turn it, get it up here for you. Let's see if we can move out a little bit because we need a bigger view. Hi, Mary. Good morning. Hi, Susan. Hope everybody's doing well. Okay, this is the body that we had already completed. This was last week's, and this was week 1. So this is the intersection project. So week 1, week 2, and this is where we're going to go now. We're going to fill in this space. What I did in order to create that space, I did 2 things. I put in this grid, and I intentionally made it not match up here. So if this is a 3-inch square right here, you can see that this square is going to underlap this corner right here on purpose. It doesn't matter how much. What the idea is we're trying to create an element where this part of the design will come from behind. So it doesn't matter, what your overlap or underlap is, but you don't want it to match this corner. You don't want this square to come right off of the corner. Then I knew that I wanted to create some cut into the design. Part of what we're doing is this process of layering the designs. So this one will underlap underneath this element, and then this circle is going to overlap and cut away. So we'll have to think ahead as we're putting our design in here about how we're going to maneuver around. So that's the learning objective for the day. You can choose any size. I've chosen a 3-inch block, and all I did is I just started with some straight lines that were 3 inches apart. I even had them extended over here. And when you do this, one of the things that you want to think ahead about is, obviously I've closed all of my squares. You could leave some of them open. For example, if I closed this one and this one, but I left this open, then some other element can feed into this if I wanted it to. So think about that ahead. What I may do is I may add one more square over here and a partial frame so something can kind of come into this area. So I did go ahead and I did sew my squares in. You can see I still have the purple markings. Now, in order to make the design, I think it's really practical to put these cross marks in there, and I'm going to show you why. Today's lesson will be a little bit of straight line with a ruler just to maneuver around, and then we're going to free motion in the space that we created. I have a quick little sketch that we can work with, and this is a good practice for anybody at home. I really recommend doing it as a sketch. Even if you just sketch one of the squares, what you want to determine is how much room do you have to play with, right? So this line, let's see, I think this line is wrong. I can tell that it's wrong because it should come to the corner down here somewhere. So let's just fix that really quick. Let's correct that. You'll see what I mean in just a second. See how these are even corner to corner? What we have to do is we have to visually consider that this is a full piece of this design right here. Even though this is underneath right here in this other element, obviously that's not the corner if this is this 3-inch square. So if you have elements that extend into your other design areas and we need a reference line, just draw them in over your existing design. Right? So if this was that little swoop that we did right here, you're still going to make the edge of this corner so that you have this line as a reference that is accurate, not over here some weird place. So the way that we're going to do it is we're going to start with our foot right there because I have the ruler foot on. That means that it'll be a 1/4 inch away right on that diagonal. So essentially we would be sewing diagonal to diagonal. So here, this would be the edge of the block, and we would just travel around until our foot touches right there. And then we'll put that next 1/4 inch in that space right there. And we're going to fill in the whole thing. Okay, we'll put this 1/4 inch little frame around everybody. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Oh, sorry. All right. Now, we're on this diagonal, and I want to come in a certain amount of distance. You can decide. I'm going to decide on 3/4 inch to travel in. What that means is 2 lines on the ruler, because the foot is going to add another. So it's going to look like this, 3 lines, and we're going to create this little box on the inside. Let's see if I can get it correct. Oh, I think I did one too many, right? Did I do? Nope. I don't know why it's not lining up, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. When we sew it, it will. So we're going to create this little box on the inside, and your travel lines will go from your diagonal to your diagonal like that. And now here's the free motion part. We're going to end essentially on one of these diagonals, one of these corners, and you're going to travel free motion, and you're going to square this off and come back in and come out and come back in until you're approximately straight, and then we'll start traveling like this. And you decide the spacing. It's up to you. I'm going to use kind of a tight spacing, and you'll see it. And I am just visually estimating. I'm not trying to make it perfectly 1/8 or whatever. I'm just kind of trying to keep it even a little bit. So you're going to end up with a little bit more stitch, a little bit more thread around the corner as it goes because of the angle. And then once we are flat, we're going to start traveling again like this. And we'll just follow the box as the travel lines for each of these, the inside box and the outside box. And then on the angle a little bit here. And here, you know, we are going to use this line. This is the overlap right here. This design overlaps. So we'll just travel along that, but we have this diagonal to help us come back in. So you can see how those can be really valuable. So then we'll just keep going. And what I plan to do is try to do 2 of these, you know, so you can see how once we finish, how do we get over to the next one. So that's the goal. And let's see, any questions as we get started? Don't worry if your lines aren't straight. It's okay. If you feel like you can't make your line straight, this is a really short distance, then just make a wiggly line. I don't care. It's still going to look awesome. Okay, let's play. Remember that we have already accepted that this is free motion. This is not rigid motion. So it's okay to let yourself play. Don't worry too much about, you know, if everything's perfect. Remember that when we did this, you know, you guys saw every little flaw. You know, they're not all perfect. Some are wiggly, wonky, whatever. I don't care. But when you look at the whole thing, it looks so cool. So don't worry too much about everybody being so perfect. I guess we'll go this way. This will allow me to get this in the best view for you. So right here, I'm going to just make sure I have that corner marked really well. Seems like it's wearing off already. Where is my marker? Oh, he's hiding. I don't know where he went. There we go. All right, and I'm using my straight edge. This is actually from Janome. It says Janome on it, but Sew Steady makes this exact same ruler, and it'll have a squaring edge in the center if you need to do a 90-degree reference, or it's got some other cool angles on there as well. So let's go ahead and get this marked just so we can have this center reference line right here. All right, so what we'll do, I think it's practical here that we will come in on this side maybe, and so we'll travel around because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on here. let's see, a 1/4 inch, let's think. Here on the 1/4 inch, this is already a 1/4 inch, right? We got to think about it like this. So as we come up, the travel would be in here. So we're going to travel across until our foot touches right there. So if we want a 1/4 inch, we'll start with the ruler foot right on the line, just like that, right in the seam. Let's pick up that thread and we'll get going. Ah, you see everything, right? I was supposed to pick up that bobbin thread. What happened? Oh, darn it. This stupid bobbin thread, it drives me crazy. It's so short. Can tell I used my scissor button earlier when you weren't looking, right? Okay, let's get set. Get in the line. Our foot's touching right there. We'll get the ruler in place afterwards. All right, there's a lot of thread here already, so a few more stitches won't matter. Nobody will see it, and we can tack off right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My foot is touching this line, and let's show you what we're looking for. As I'm going, I'm lining this right up on the line until this foot touches. Okay, and then I can just do it the other way. Same thing, I'm going to go all the way up until my foot not just touches the line here, but is in the line, because right now this reference is that 1/4 inch. So I'm going to stitch, free stitch across the circle, slowly, try to keep it nice and smooth as best I can, until my foot is touching the square on this side. Let me show you what it looks like from the other side. Okay, right there, maybe I need one more stitch. Now I have this straight line and I can line this up. As I sew down, my foot will touch right here. Oh, let's see, we got a weird thread in there. Let's move those out of the way. I don't want to stitch over them. What are they doing? Can't they read my mind and be out of my way? Right, we always want our quilt to do what we tell it, right? But it doesn't sometimes. Okay, so right there, and then we'll come down right there. Now we're going to stop when the foot is all the way, the needle is all the way touching right there, because already our 1/4 inch is inside this area. This is the edge of that 3-inch square, right? So we don't want to, stop. We want the needle to be right where it's supposed to be, actually in that design. And I'm going to come to this diagonal right here, because that's how we're going to make our next group. And we want to travel inside the diagonal a little bit. So we're actually going to sew right on it. And why can we do that? The reason that we can actually sew on the diagonal in this instance is because this design is going to fill in the diagonal, each of the diagonals. So if I have a little line right there, it's just going to be part of the design anyway. So there's my 2 spaces. Make sure my foot is touching. And now I'll do the square, and I'm sewing diagonal to diagonal. If these are corner to corner, this should be my pivot point. And I can just check that with the ruler with my 2 lines. But that way I have a good visual on where I need to stop when I'm sewing, because then I don't have to guess. I can just keep on sewing. So there's my diagonal right there. And then we'll just close this last one. Whatever the straight line is here, I just need to be a 1/4 inch away so I can close that box. All right, so now let's turn it a little bit so you can see better, and we're going to start doing that free motion to fill this in. So here we'll have a little frame, right? This is going to be puffed because all of this in here is going to be crushed down. All right, so let's get started. So I'm just going to take 1 or 2 stitches to come out. Here, I'm going to just come back a little bit. I've got to fill in this space. so I can kind of get back up to the square. Once I'm at that 90 degrees, then I can just start traveling a little bit at a time. Try to travel right on your existing line. And I'm just trying to use a little bit of visual spacing as I go to try to keep these a little bit the same. If you felt like the squaring edge right here as I travel is a little too difficult, I'll show you what I mean. Right here, I'm going to travel on the line and come back in. If that's too difficult, then you can just make a curve, and maybe that will be easier for you. So here we're going to come back to the corner each time, to that inner corner. That's going to allow us to travel around the corner. So we're out on the diagonal, as I said, and we'll come in just a little bit. And we're still using the diagonal until we are essentially 90 degrees. So you're going to get a little bit more thread buildup right on the inner corner of this. And now we're at the 90, so now we can just start squaring it up. So we'll travel on the inside, and you can even count, maybe like 3 stitches over, 2 stitches over, whatever you want. That'll help you maybe get some regularity in your spacing, but honestly, I don't care. I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do. So you can see with my right hand, I'm kind of gripping the sandwich a little bit. I've actually got like a little pinch grip right here. This hand's flat, but this hand is making sure the whole thing is coming with me, right? So now we're kind of getting to that corner point. So we're going to start doing our little angle to the corner. And I think with the short distance that this has, it's going to be okay if our lines aren't perfect. They're going to be mostly straight. Okay, so this is what we have so far, and we'll just fill in the rest of it. Just want you to be able to see we're kind of at the 90 right now. So now we're going to start that travel and just move across, kind of like a ladder almost. One thing I do want is I kind of don't want the edges rounded. I want them a little squared off. So make sure that you have a definitive change of direction. When you, right now, for example, I'm definitively going across, changing at 90 degrees. Once I get to the corner, that's when I'm going to start angling things a little bit. So I can come back into the corner each time. And then out on the diagonal. So that is why this was such an easy transfer point, because I know I'm going to have stitches on every diagonal, and that really is allowing me to move through this design really easily, even though there's some extra thread there, which I actually think looks kind of cool. So we're almost at that 90 degree right here. And now we can start traveling. And right there, I think I'll come back up to this little guy and we'll start traveling. This is where you'll really see this overlap, underlap right here. Okay, all of a sudden my hand was like, oh, you're cramping me. Okay, so I'm gonna adjust my position so I can relax again, get my shoulders comfortable, and then we'll start going. So if that ever happens to you, just, take a little break, shake it out. It means I'm holding something too tight. My shoulders, my hand, whatever. So as we get here, we're going to start doing that little angle and coming back. And I think we can fit one more in there. Now, I'm on the outside. I can stop right there. I can even go around these edges if I want to. It's not required, but if you really wanted this to be defined, You could go around the outside edges and use that as your travel. At this point, I'm just going to go ahead and just tack off. Why you might want to travel again is like right here, I can tell I have like one stitch that goes beyond all the others. If you put some more thread in there, you camouflage that. Like if I put another layer of thread right there around the edge, I could camouflage any little, problem area. But it's fine. I think it looks, totally fine. Once I get all of the markings off and everything, it's going to look totally fine. All right, so here, right, let's lift up, release our presser foot, and right here, the same thing. We have only a little space right here to fill in if we want to put this same element right here. So we would just put our foot right there. We're doing the 1/4 inch spacing right here. So I can just jump stitch my needle right over to there, and I'll travel and I'll put my echo in, and then I can actually travel myself all the way back here and come around. So let's go ahead and do that. I just want to show you what sometimes they're going to look like if you only have the partial. Remember that our diagonal here is also our transition, right? So we'll just go around. And right there, this down here is the end of the block. So in this case, I actually have to go all the way and touch, and I want to travel in on the diagonal, so either I could come in right there or I could come back up here. In this case, that's kind of far, but what I would want to do on this bottom one, this line is not complete. I can't see the bottom. So let's put that in, and we'll use that diagonal here on the bottom because it's closer. There's no sense traveling all this way when I can just make a line here that will give me the resource that I need. Oh, I don't know, maybe it will, maybe it won't, right? There we go. Okay, so again, we're going to free stitch until we hit the diagonal. So right on that circle, and that was only like 2 stitches. And now we have to travel in, and remember this will be the marked line. When we come in, we want 2 spaces from that. So traveling in on the diagonal, and then there's my 2 spaces. So actually I think I went 1 stitch too far, darn it. Oh, we'll take that out later. Okay, so I'm on the diagonal. That did not work out. I think we do need to go further because there's no way that that is the correct spacing right there. Okay, let's just play with it. Here we go. If this is our box, we want to have that 2 spaces, but we need 2 spaces here too, right? There we go. That's going to be our correct spacing right there. Okay, we're just going with that. I'm going to use this straight edge to come in right there. And then right here, we'll come around right to our diagonal, and we'll put our 2 spaces on this side. All right, and I think I'll just come right over to here, and we'll start our fill right here, and we'll fill all of this around. So I'm right at the corner. So now I can start angling. Right in on that diagonal. Okay, we're at that 90, so we can go straight now. Oh, that was a little wonky curve. Nice, definitive change of direction. That one kind of rounded off that other one. As I get towards the corner, I can tell I start slowing down because I'm anticipating that corner position right there. So a little bit of an angle now. We have to come around that circle a little bit. So we have a little bit of a wonky line right there, and I don't care. I'm just going to sew over it. If I really need to take it out later, I can decide to do that, but it's a really small line, and there's going to be a lot going on right here. So I don't think anybody will see it. But you can make those decisions for yourself, you know, if you feel like it's too messy or whatever. So let me show you what we are getting right here. We get this puff right there, that little piece of this circle. And if this, I might just come back here and put one more line in just to separate these. I don't want a little wider gap. I want it to look a little more full. So I might just put one more stitch right in there. At this point, you're going to do the same thing by just hopping over to your next square. I can even just go ahead and come over like this right here on the circle until my foot is touching right here. Let me show you. Right here, because this is a cutaway from the circle, we're already in 1/4 inch. So if I just take one more stitch here, this is right already on that line. So I can go ahead and just go around and start putting my 1/4 inch echo. I had to get my fabric up off the edge because I have that pin in there. It was trapping that pin. Okay, and then we'll just keep going down. So anytime I can connect the design, I will. It's not always possible to connect it, but if I can, I will. And then right here will basically be right on that diagonal. And then I can just travel in and make my square and continue my design. So, all right, I'm going to just check real quick and see how we're doing. I haven't really talked to anybody yet. All right. Well, hello from Buena Park. Hello from Oregon. Hi from Alabama. Hi from Nottingham. From Kansas. Oh, it's so cool. I love sharing this with all of you guys. Pagosa Springs, kind of a neighbor. So is there any questions about how this is going, or do you want to see something else? Mary, I talk to myself a lot when I'm quilting. It's kind of a solitary art, and I think a lot of times when we kind of narrate for ourselves, it kind of keeps us on track. Oh, that's funny. But yes, I think a lot of us do that. I would not be surprised at all. Oh, somebody mentioned that Nan did a really cute dog and cat, like a puppy on the bottom and a cat with Freemotion and like little flower eyes. So you should check that out on Getting Started with Ruler Work and also on our Westerly by Me page. It's so cute. That's Nana Pan. She's from Sweden, and she did a really, really cute design. And her comment was that she felt like the education that's been out this last year with rulers has been a good step off for her to be better at Freemotion. And I do think that's true. I think these are really compatible skills. Right now, you saw that, you know, this was Freemotion, but obviously straight lines are better straight, right? I want my straight lines to be straight, especially if this is the frame, then this can be wonky inside, but the frame still defines the space. And that organizes the space for the viewer, for somebody that's looking at your quilt. So I think that's really important. But the other aspect of that is if I'm sewing with my ruler, I don't have to think about, once I put the ruler on there, I already know where I'm going. The decision for where I'm going is already made. So when you're free motioning, you have to think on the fly. You have to decide, okay, how far do I need to go? Have I gone far enough? Do I need to go back? Did I go too far? So right here, I'm still going to estimate how much space I need so I can get those two lines on there, right there. The ruler takes you where you want to go without as much thought. I don't have to think about the design. I just have to think about the stitch quality while I'm sewing with the ruler. So if you're somebody that needs a little bit of help, you know, in that direction where you can't think about all of the pieces all at the same time, the ruler separates those into two parts. And I think that for a lot of us, that has been a really big benefit, helping us be more accurate with our design, as we go. It's giving us more freedom. So right now, then I will just start filling this in, and you don't even have to do the same design. If you want to organize these frameworks, and then you could put a different fill inside of each one. I've just shown you one, and I've showed you how to make this, but you can put whatever fill in here you want, and what it's going to give you is this awesome puff, which will give you a really fun look to it. And here's where we get the under and overlap. So the visual aspect of that is that your viewer is going to see that this design is behind. So these lines will all go away, right? All right, so let's see. I'm going to just scroll through real quick. All right. So let's talk about one more thing before we end for today. I'm just going to tack this off so we can kind of move to a different area real quick. If I want to do a different spacing, you can. You don't have to follow the guidelines that I have established right here. If your block is bigger, say you have a 4-inch block, maybe you will want a 1/2 inch space right here to separate your elements. Maybe you don't want to sew this part in and just mark the block and still fill in, but then this will not be stitched. Then this will make a 1/2 inch between these two elements. So you can just mark this grid in and use it as a reference, but don't actually stitch it in. And then you would just start inside the diagonal, fill in your square, and that will give a little bit more space between the blocks without you having to do any extra work for sewing. You can just mark it in, and then you already have created the space just by marking that. So I encourage you to play with that. If you just wanted to sort of make this grid on paper and do some different spacing and do some different fills, that's a good way to see what you like. And if you want to, make different changes or whatever, that's something that makes it more flexible for you. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and let me just turn it a little bit. I know that I want this to cut away. I know I want to create that layering. That's part of what we're learning in this Freemotion process. So I went ahead and I put at least the outline of this area in first. I didn't want to try to mark this and then I've sewn all of this and then this marking is crunched up. I wanted to make sure that this was a definitively marked line that was not going to change. So I actually sewed the outline in, and I just kept my pin in place so I can put some additional circles in there when I'm ready. And then I also did an overlap here as well, where this design will be on top of those overlapping circles. That'll give us another set of layering for us to play with in our next set of information. So what I'll do is I'll fill these in. I'm going to finish out this design and I'll post the picture of that. But that's just one option for how you can put something in between. So this is your underlap right here, and then this one is the overlap right here on top, and I'm going to fill in a few more of these. And I may leave one of these open right here, and maybe I'll take this stitching out so that I can have a design stitch right into this space and fill in that area. And that'll create another merge and another intersection of those two areas. Okay, I think we're done for today. Short and sweet, but I want these not to be really long. I want you to just be able to if you don't sew the lines, there's more puff, and you don't have to break thread more often. I am not sure, Susan Tapp, that I understand where your question is relating to, because I didn't catch it at the same time that I was sewing. So if you want to explain it a little bit more, I'll try to address that maybe when I put the picture up. Nobody ever has to apologize for being here, being late, being not here, whatever. Patsy, I usually broadcast Freemotion Fridays at 10 o'clock Mountain Time for my location. I expect that you as a human and as an adult are going to do whatever is an important priority for you. I don't get my feelings hurt if you want to watch it later, if you can't be here for any reason. I always appreciate if you can be here, but you don't have to apologize or explain unless you want to. But congratulations, whoever had their son's birthday. So that's great. I hope you have a lovely birthday and celebrate your son, which is great. So I will say goodbye. I won't keep you hanging around. So practice some of this. I want to see what you're doing. Show me a picture if you've tried some of these. I would love to see it. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to fill in 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to leave this one open. And I think I'll do some other kind of design that will fit into that space and kind of fill that in. So that'll be fun. All right, you guys, have a great day. Happy quilting. I should be here next week, and I'll leave a little schedule for the weeks after because I will be not around for a couple weeks in June. But if I can tape something, I'll try to do that so we can just keep our rhythm. All right, happy Freemotion Fridays. Go play. Bye-bye.